Alrighty, I think we're ready to get started for the deep dive this morning. It's Monday, August 1st, already August, hard to believe that, but welcome to the deep dive. Always enjoy starting our Monday mornings this way. Do it every week to talk about the most important things in the market right now. If you saw the video that we did on Instagram or other places, we're going to keep talking about this shifting market. A lot happened last week with the Fed meeting, with certainly GDP being released, and I'm going to talk about that and sort of break down some of that in the market. You're not going to want to miss that. Let's talk just for a minute about what's happening out across the world, and really what I want to talk about today is its impact in real estate. That's what we can control. That's what we can be the knowledge source on. But I mentioned the Fed meeting last week, raising the Fed funds rate 75 basis points. I think we all know that by now. We've said for a long time, if you're a KCM member or you follow the deep dive, the Fed does not control mortgage rates. They can only hope to influence it. And they raised this time, and yet we're seeing lower rates this week. I'm going to break that down for you and cover everything in that. We saw GDP come out and be negative for the second quarter in a row. There's certainly a debate going on about that. I'll talk about that and its impact on housing. I'm going to hop in. I'm going to share my slides as always. If you're a KCM member, you can go in and download these slides and use them as you're talking to people. And we always say, have them on your phone, have them in a place you can access so that you can be the knowledge broker to the clients you serve. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'll start here with what I just talked about. The average 30-year fixing, a drop again, 5.3% on average. This came out on Thursday. It comes out every week from Freddie Mac. That's a rear view look, the last 7 days. And this is the average, interest rate in this country. And this is a look, going back to the first of the year. We've used it many, many times on the deep dive, but we want to stay on top of this just as a perspective in the market. But, sort of the confusing thing for a lot of people was the Fed raised rates, and we saw lower mortgage rates come of that. Now, that's an interesting piece of information that we want to be on top of. And the bottom line really in that is that the Fed, in their raising rates, it brought up fears of a recession, and we've broken that down. And I'm gonna break down what a coming recession could look like for real estate. And no doubt this is the biggest question on many, many people's minds. Even I would argue right now, this has become a political question. And I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but I'm going to break down what the argument is in it. And I'll start here. The National Bureau of Economic Research, they're the ones that call and define a recession, a significant decline in economic activity across the economy lasting more than a few months, nominally visible in real GDP, income, employment, production, and wholesale retail sales. So there's sort of this widely held definition of 2 consecutive quarters. There's this technical definition from the National Bureau of Economic Research. I'm not suggesting that you get involved in that discussion, because it is, depending on how you see the world, politics play certainly a role in that. Of, are they trying to rewrite the definition of a recession? That is the National Bureau of Economic Research's recession. But let's go back and let's look at, this question: is a recession 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth? Well, yes, technically that is that too. So the definition is true, and this is true as well. You'd have to go back to 1947 to see a time when that wasn't true. But every time since then, when we've seen 2 consecutive quarters, we've seen a recession called. So, certainly an interesting time right now in that. And again, I think this is an argument that's happening in a lot of places, an argument that is certainly has a political tone to it. But no doubt across the country, people are fearful of a recession. A recession is really just a title for an economic slowdown. Okay. And if you look at headlines across the news, Americans are worried, investors are worried, fears are surging about a recession. So, we have this conversation about the definition of it, but no doubt people are worried about it. And I think the question in our mind should be, how will housing be impacted by a coming recession? Okay. We can talk about the world, we can talk about things out there, but we can control what we can control, which is education, in housing, our expertise in bringing this about. How will housing be impacted by a coming recession? Okay, so let's go back to things that we've talked about before on the deep dive. I want to remind you of a few things. First one, over the past 5 recessions, mortgage rates have fallen an average of 1.8 percentage points from the peak seen during the recession to the trough. And in many cases, they continue to fall after the fact, as it takes some time to turn things around, even when the recession is technically over. Now, next week on the deep dive, Kate's going to come. She's going to bring a forecast for what experts are saying. This year is going to end up in interest rates and prices and number of homes sold and all that. But we can say historically in a recessionary market, interest rates have fallen. The graphic that we've used is this one right here, going all the way back to the 80s. Each recession and the mortgage rate at the start and the mortgage rate at the conclusion there, what happened? Oh, by the way, what's happening right now? This is happening. This is starting. These fears are starting to creep into the economy. Okay, and I'm gonna sort of give you a couple of headlines that are out there that validate this right now. We've been talking about it for a while. I think we did this on the deep dive a few months ago to say, hey, be ready for this as this comes up. But here's the bottom line. CNN last week, mortgage rates dropped as fears grow that the U.S. economy is entering a recession. CNBC, the drop Thursday also came on the heels of the Bureau of Economic Analysis gross domestic product report, which showed the U.S. economy contracted for the second straight quarter. That is a widely accepted signal of recession. Last, Washington Post, mortgage rates are brought down by recession fears. So we're seeing that play out in the market. You can be the expert in this market to show your clients this is typically what happens during a recession. So I'll go back to the comment that was made before. I think it was maybe Michael, whoever it was in Las Vegas, said, my inventory has quadrupled since March. So, if you saw the infographic on Friday that KCM published, go back and look at that 3 reasons to buy. And oh, by the way, I would add, rates starting to give a little bit of relief on these recessionary fears. I'm not saying we're out of the woods. I'm not saying this isn't going to be a volatile market coming up, because it certainly will be. But this is the reason for what is happening. The bottom line in all this, and I'll bring this up and I'll kind of wrap up here. Recession doesn't equal a housing crisis. Many of you have seen this graphic before. You've posted this graphic, and we need to continue to talk about it. I believe really right now we need to get loud about this topic. We need to be able to bring this topic to those that we serve and educate them on what a recession has meant to housing. Back in 2008, a recession didn't affect housing. Housing affected the recession. That's the bottom line. We're looking at something completely different right now. And so as you look forward, I think we can be the knowledge broker. We can be certain about what is going on relative to housing and be the educator for what people need right now. I want to give you one other thing before I wrap here and ask Jess if there are any questions. And, in this shifting market, I think you have to have a place to have these resources. This is a resource that we've built. You can go to trykcm.com/resources. We've put everything there that we're creating and will create on this shifting market. It's going to be everything you need. If you're a KCM member, you can log in right there, grab all this stuff personalized to you. You can see some of it if you're not a KCM member. But I'm going to say for the next 90 days, having a source for this type of content and being able to post it is going to be critically important. What do you need to know? What do you need to say? And then what do you need to share out in the market is going to be what is going to define the experts in this market shift. No doubt about it. So go there and check that out. trykcm.com/resources. That has everything that you need to be the expert in this shifting market. And we will continue to update that. We'll continue to add resources to it as things evolve with recession, with prices, with all the topics that you need to keep your clients educated. So Jess, I'm going to pause for a second. Do we have any questions that people have asked there in the chat?
I haven't actually seen any questions come through. Definitely some market updates for members, but no questions.
Okay. Well, as always, we are grateful for you joining the deep dive. Listen, in this market, you have to be connected to a source. If you haven't started a KCM free trial, I want to invite you to do it. You can go to trykcm.com, start a free 14-day trial, go check it out, but have a source of quality information and insights during this time, because it's going to be what makes the difference for those that are out there being proactive in this market and educating their clients. There are agents right now that are going, I don't know what's going to happen. And there are agents that are certain about what they know is true. So go in and try that if you haven't tried it. We'll see you back next week. Kate will be on. She'll be doing sort of a forecast for how we're going to end up the year. You're going to want to grab that information because it's going to be critical to understand as we go through this market. So thanks again for joining. We'll see you back next week. Take care.